Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nivelle podcast. This is probably the last season for a while, and you may have been wondering why I haven't posted for a while, because for a while I was really posting quite often and quite excitedly, and then I suddenly stopped. Well, as you may imagine, the whole COVID lockdown put a little bit of a kink into my great idea about a performance-based business, which brought in customers through all kinds of shows and everything, which was then, of course I could have done this whole thing online, but of course at the time I didn't really have any competition. That is why I went to the place where I went, and to look for a blue water, this blue water and red water strategy thing, right? Blue water, the blue ocean, being where you basically invent something entirely new and you don't have any competitors who are in a red ocean where you basically have a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, because everybody is providing it. But of course, once I had to go online, suddenly everybody in the business who is at the top of their game, who are billionaires by now, were people I was suddenly competing against. I wasn't competing against them before, so this didn't really go all that well. But I thought I will still give you an update of what happened, because it could actually be really helpful. It is not that I think that this was all for nothing. It certainly wasn't. Why did I go back? Well, I certainly needed to get some money from somewhere, so I went back to my old job, which may sound like a throwback, but it actually wasn't. Why I went back to my old job was that I realized that my entire industry was suddenly switched to ESG, to environmental sustainability, which it hadn't even mentioned when I left the company and left the industry and started my own company in order to focus on ESG. When I started posting on LinkedIn, that was actually at the time when I think the first real stuff happened in the industry, but it hadn't filtered down yet to us. So I had no idea that all this was happening, and there's so much legislation, so much stuff happened, and I'm a lawyer, right? So this is exactly my field. So it is actually a really exciting time to be in that field again, because it is the leader of the entire thing that I'm interested in, which is sustainability and which is win-win situations between nature and the environment, which also brought me to the second point, which is proximity to power. In every single podcast or every single course that you go to for entrepreneurs, they always say proximity is power. You should go where the power is in order to get ideas, in order to get funding, and so on and so forth. Well, I was working in investment banking. Guess where the ideas are, where the people are who are experts at looking at companies, at seeing whether they are run well or not. That's what investment bankers do. And they're also experts in raising funds. Well, why not be around those people, learn from those people while I'm still doing the job that I was trained to do, which is in legal, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the financial side, with the financial analysis of these businesses, but of course these people are around, so why not just talk to them, right? So proximity is power was the next thing. And I also felt I wanted to make a contribution now, because all of these things had gone wrong initially, and all those people who do train entrepreneurs, they are good people. Some of them at least, some of them are sharks, yes, but some of them really do care. But of course, you have to spend a lot of money on a lot of courses in order to learn all the things that you need to learn. And of course, when then something happens like first Brexit and then COVID, and that is the time when you want to start your new business, that is really not a good time to raise your confidence. So my confidence was at a low, and I decided I wasn't being able to do the things anymore that I had been doing before and without a problem. And I was wondering, was it because I was getting old? That is kind of what people will be telling you at that point. But then I decided, no, that's has nothing to do with getting old. I see people starting new careers in their 70s and 80s, like presidents and kings, Why should I, at this point, decide to buy into this theory where I live at the moment, where I'm taking care of some family issues, that life is over at 40? It isn't. So I decided to go back into that industry to see that, and it had been a while, so I wasn't quite entirely sure if that was going to work out, but I got basically the same deal that I got before, a little bit less, but almost the same deal that I got before, which gives me a great base also to still pursue the dream that I still have, because I can raise the money again in order to get money for this win-win center that I wanted to build, and to simply buy a property. So this was actually a godsend that I actually found the job and they let me in again. And turns out, because I switched jurisdictions and I went from London to Germany, and Germany is usually in that space a little bit behind because most of the regulations are made in England and in the US, and are just then, and all the agreements are basically worked out there, and then it's just replicated in the German market. I was actually totally up to date still, so this was actually a really good thing. Why was it good for me? Well, there are 3 things that I learned. It was not for nothing. You know, not only did I learn what not to do and what not to believe in, and from some of the teachers out there, I also learned a lot of things that actually do work. And I'm clear now on how I want to structure what I want to do going forward. I'm not just blindly charging in. And I also learned that dreams are not nothing. Initially, I thought, okay, if you listen to somebody who basically gives you dreams and hopes, but doesn't really deliver, that it's useless. But unless he really leads you astray, you know, like some of these people who claim to have their wonderful system and then it turns out to be, you know, something that is just smoke and mirrors. But as long as you really do learn something and you really do have that dream, whole cultures are built on a dream. The American dream is what has helped a lot of people go through really difficult times, because they thought that at least for their children there's going to be something at the end of it. In all kinds of other cultures, they have the same dream. They just don't talk about it in the same way. They don't have this term, American dream. You know, you don't have a current term, African dream or Indian dream or whatever. But if you take a look at the population there that is maybe not quite as wealthy, they will have the same dream too. Even in wealthy countries, in culture, in old cultures that are now wealthy, like in Europe, for example, why would you study law, or why would you study medicine? Of course you say, oh, well, it makes sense and so on and so forth. But there is a dream behind this. The dream is to be important. The dream is to make a lot of money. The dream may be something better, something more spiritual, like that you help the mothers of other people because your mother died early of cancer, for example, or because you want to help somebody's children, or you want to help somebody's pets because your pet died, or your child died, or whatever. There's always a dream at the end, because otherwise you will not pull through. And even if you study something prosaic like law or medicine, there is a dream in the back. You just don't talk about it the same way. And corporations also have a dream. It is called a vision. Every company that is successful has a vision, whether they actually put it on paper or not. It is a sort of motivator that pulls you towards when things are difficult. So, and the third thing that I learned was, do not quit your job until your new entrepreneurial thing actually makes money. And that has a good reason, because a lot of these teachers will tell you just burn your boats. And I'm not saying that they mean badly. It may have been their experience that is why they succeeded. But there is a big difference between having to jump in at the deep end, because you absolutely have no choice. If your employer has gone bankrupt and they say, okay, you're either out of a job or you open this office and make it by yourself, then you have to do this. This is not something that you decide to do. Then you have to do this, and then you may be successful. I've had things like that as well. You know, I was, when I really needed money, you will see that that is one of the stories on the course, on the jobs course that I had, where I ended up in a hotel with 36,000 in credit card debts in London after yet another thing like COVID and Brexit, a year-long strike, which completely threw me off. And I ended up in London again from Canada. And 36,000 pounds in credit card debts may not be that much if you work in a really well-paying job. But at the time, I think the most that I had earned in a year was, I think, 30,000. And that was a big jump from the job before, which was 20,000 in a year, pounds. That may be more in euros, but in London, that is not much, right? And then suddenly I had 36,000 in credit card debt. So all these temp jobs that I was coming back to, I couldn't make any money with that, right? I was paying more on the credit card debts that I had than was coming in together with the rent, right? So I had to find another way, and I did. Within half a year, well, within a few weeks actually, I had a well-paying job. That was my first job in the industry. And within, I think, half a year or a year, and within half a year, I bought my own house. And in a year, I had paid off my debt. But that was only because I didn't have another choice. I would not have made that choice to be in that much debt, and so that I don't have a way back, right? So if you do have something that actually pays for your dream, then don't leave it unless you cannot motivate yourself. Now, for me, it wasn't that bad. I had some money saved, right, which I could use in Spain when the money, when things didn't go so well. And I had run myself into a wall for years, so I really did need a walkabout. And this whole exercise, this entrepreneurial exercise, ended up being a walkabout for me, because I also did a lot of personal development and stuff. And that was actually really, really helpful, because when I went back to the new job or to the old job, I finally realized there are a lot of things that I actually don't have to be upset about. I was getting upset about things that really don't matter. So, and now I have a vision to go towards. I haven't given up the vision yet. I may not make it a business that makes money at this point. I think I may make it a charity instead of making it an entrepreneurial business, because that just works better in Europe than in America. I think this kind of thing works because it is kind of a normal thing to do. I don't think in Europe it really is. So I probably will make a charity out of it. But that is also something that I learned on the journey. And I now have something to go towards, which keeps me on the ball. And I'm not concerned that I'm going to lose my hunger. That would be the first time that I settle in my life. So I think this whole journey was a really useful one. And once I'm still, I'm still learning about branding and the different things that you need to learn. There are cheaper ways of learning them than to go to really expensive courses in America. And I've done this. You can do this through books and so on and so forth. And I've just read a really interesting book about branding and about how to sell yourself. There are all kinds of resources out there. And while I am working my job and while I'm contributing and really making a difference, I think, in the employed job that I have here, which I really do enjoy, because there are a lot of perks. If you work for a really international company, there's a lot of perks going to a job that you don't have if you're an entrepreneur yourself. A lot of things that you maybe didn't realize before or took for granted, like things like canteens, like kitchens that they provide for you, like offices that they provide for you, like equipment that they provide for you, like different discounts here or there. Maybe some of them even have a gym, for example. Some of them even have some really nice restaurants internally. Some of them have doctors. Some of them have pension plans. There are a lot of things that, and they do all the organization of all the stuff that you need to deal with as an entrepreneur yourself. And you just have to go to the job and you go home. Especially if you work as a contractor like I usually do, or as a consultant, you don't have that weight on you and you still have the benefit. So I do enjoy that part of it. I think I will take the responsibility, as I said, later with the charity. But at the moment, this is the way how I raise the money in order to get enough money for the property that we need, and also in order to get into proximity with the right people, make contacts again with the right people that I had kind of lost contact with, and at the same time still learn some skills that I still need and I will still need, and maybe even find some collaborators. So this is where I am right now, and I think this is enough for today. So I wish you all the best on your entrepreneurial journey. If I have any new updates and some exciting news, like the opening of the center, for example, I will come back here again to the space and will let you know. And until then, have a wonderful new year, and I wish you all the very best.